Hey, it's Tom, Fresh Vintage. We have our 2016 Honda HRV here. Today we're going to install an aftermarket backup camera. The reason we're going with an aftermarket one is the original factory one, we installed an aftermarket Boss Elite radio, and with that it actually will not work with the OEM factory backup camera. So we're going to install a license plate ring style backup camera. We've done a few of these on the channel, so it should be pretty fast and simple. So let's get started. So the back of our HRV here, this has a plastic fascia here, so we're going to go ahead and just pull down on this. Doesn't take much effort. Go ahead and pull all of this out. There we go. There we go. So this came off in one piece, minus this popping apart, but there's no bolts or screws here. It's all just the little green clips. So this will give us access to the spot where we're actually going to put the backup camera in, which is right in this general vicinity. So we'll go ahead and start installing that now. Alright, so we have our new license plate style backup camera here. Has the wiring, has power hookup, and the yellow video input. So with that, we pulled called the driver's side license plate light out here, and we're just going to work on fishing this in here so that we can kind of temporarily mock this up to get the wiring inside the car. So take your time, just work it in there, and then from there we're going to go ahead and mount this with the screws. Knowing eventually we'll have to put the license plate back on, but this gets us started. Alright, so we have our wiring all done, and let's take a quick second to walk through this. Simple thing, the black ground wire here, we tapped into an existing nut, so the wire is under there, so we're good with that. In some of these scenarios, you have not one, but two positive wires you need to power, and that may be confusing, but what I mean is, some of these actually have a power wire. This is the other end. Imagine this going to the radio, and you need to actually power this wire. That you're like, Tom, why is this wire just hanging here? It's because the other end of this wire is actually on the other end with the video input. So when you put the car in reverse, you energize the actual camera with this wire, but you also provide power through this positive wire, through this cable, up to the radio, because some radios, and in this case this Boss Elite unit, needs a power source. This actually gives the radio, says okay, trigger to actually display the video feed coming from the backup camera. That's why you have a positive here to power the camera and a positive to actually run power through this wire to the radio. So we have all this wired up, and we're going to go ahead and put this back together and then start working on running the wire up to the radio itself. Alright, so we have our our actual video wire going on the tailgate itself, and with that we're going to try to give as much slack as possible, because the plastic piece that goes over top of this is going in here and here and here, so we definitely want to make sure we're not pinching this wire. So we looped it through the actual metal here. We're going to go right along the steel here, and then we went into the car behind this plastic panel, and then we actually did really clean finish. It's up along here, and so far I've gotten it down here to the actual rubber door seal. So I've just been slowly working this in here. And this thing, it's always take your time. But we're gonna go ahead and work this on through, right on down to the front into the radio. All right, so we have our Boss Elite unit. This is actually detachable. So 2 buttons, this comes right out. And from there, there's Phillips head screw here that we already took out, Phillips head screw here that we already took out, and there's a third one like all the way down in there. It is coming loose though. Okay, it is barely sitting in there at this point. There's that, and it's important to get that as loose as possible without it actually falling out, but there we go. So we'll go ahead and pull the stereo out. And what we're after back here, we pulled up the manual, and these are obviously labeled. We want the rear camera power output. And this is the other end. Sorry, let me grab this here. This is the other end of our cable here. When you put the car in reverse, you get power from the reverse light to this, and this actually needs to go to your front camera power output. You need to connect these, and then that actually causes this to trigger the reverse image to feed into the screen from the actual backup camera. So we're gonna go ahead and finish feeding this wire up through the dash, and then actually wire these together, and then we're gonna do a test real quick here. All right, so this is our cable snake. It's up to 25 feet, and it's kind of invaluable for situations like this. We actually pulled this panel off, and that actually gave us the room we needed. So there's the end of our cable snake, and what we're gonna do is tape our video feed cord, or wire, forgive me, up through here, and we're gonna carefully like fish it up through the dash and then go right into the back of the stereo. So we're gonna do that right now. All right, so we have our rear camera power input. This is right off the wiring harness for the radio. We have it wired to the positive coming off the video feed. That's going to get energized by the reverse light when we put the car in reverse. We have our rear camera input video feed for the radio. So in theory, everything should be 100% here. So we're going to go ahead and turn this on and give it a test drive here. Car is on. I'll have to cut that out. Okay, so radio is on, and we're gonna go ahead and just put this in reverse. There we go. All right, so there's the backup camera. We're gonna have to do a little investigation on the radio itself as to why it didn't automatically. No signal detected. There we go. So it is working. Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this back on. And the key thing is our wire over here, we're just gonna have to carefully make sure we don't pinch it. So I'm going to tuck this in here. This will be the one area where the wire is actually going to stick out. Just back on. There's one. All right, so we're getting ready to put our radio back in. We have our video feed hooked up here, and we have our wire permanently melted together, so we're connected there. So we're gonna work this back in the dash, and then with that, we're actually gonna put our screws back in, and then we have our panel down here. We're gonna pop back in place and then put our front fascia on, but we're pretty much done, and you'll see the actual backup camera image here in just a minute. All right, so we have our Boss Elite stereo back in, everything, the panel's back on. So the car isn't started, but we're just gonna put it in reverse. There we go. And on this unit, you actually have to press that button. And there's our carport. And we're good to go.